So, what I'm going to address are folks coming onto the page to look at the information that I and my sister have shared. Now, first of all, what I want to make very clear, what we expect, search what a cult is, what distinguishes it from a place or a church you can get up and you can leave and walk away from every day, but it is a cult. What we experience is not up for debate. We're not asking for anyone's permission. We're not asking for anyone's acceptance. We're not asking for anyone to pay our bills. We're not asking for any donations. We are not a charity case. We went paying our own way. We're two grown, responsible adults that have paid rent, have worked for every dime that we have. So there are many other people who have not paid their own way in there. So there's so many details that I have to say you cannot see on the internet. One of the purposes, or one of the main purposes for sharing, is for people who are unaware of the patterns and the inner workings of a cult. Now, as a community, all of the things that, from my small, not even small, my perspective as a woman and as a mother who has a love for my people and my culture. I enjoy my culture. I'm proud of my heritage and my culture. And I'm also a very simple person who puts my money where my mouth is. I'm not someone that sits behind a screen or just sits around at lectures and doesn't invest in my community. I'm not a big organization. I'm not a non-for-profit. I am a mother. And I have invested not only in my own offspring, my own son, I have invested in other families and other children. Because when I look at them, those could be my children. Those could also be my brothers. And I'm very aware of a lot of the dysfunction that exists within our own community. And I have decided in my life to do something about it, invest in it. I didn't need any banners or picket signs to make me do that. That is something within me. So again, I want to make very clear what we experience is not up for people's debate because you only have a limited perspective from what you can see on screen. The intention is for us to educate people on the patterns because yes, there are many people that are not aware of the insidiousness, the hazing process, or the breaking process of a cult. It is very slow. It is very gradual. The average person, especially within the Black community, is walking around with a void. We're human beings, right? There are numerous fathers that are absent. There are fathers that are there, but many of us have not had a father figure. And even if you've worked that out within yourself, you feel for other people that don't have a father. This affects our decision making. There are many people that are not in relationships that have been in traumatic relationships, and there's some people that's none of that is their story at all. They just have a desire to live within a healthy community where folks are on the same page as far as food, sharing resources, how we want to educate the children, and so on, rather than sitting around and waiting on the by and by and waiting on the government. There are people that have made a choice. I made a choice to do something about it, to search and look around as a mother. That's my responsibility to see what kind of mentors I could have around my son who are qualified. This wasn't new just with this one person. So it's more so than looking for a leader. People are getting it misconstrued. And often we don't make the distinction between looking for a leader and following blindly and looking for quality individuals to live around. Because if that was the case, if there was no leadership, then we already are working at a deficit. We'd really have nothing. So if someone is going to say that you shouldn't look for any leadership in your community, that is ridiculous. It's just blindly following someone. So I had enough wherewithal and sense put into me by my grandmother, who did not have self-help books, and wasn't more so a religious person. She was a person of common sense. And I had godparents who gave me a Good litmus test for common sense. That's what allowed me to get up and leave out of a cult. But what I am going to say, what needs to cease is the shaming of victims, the shaming of someone that's 14 years old that has been molested. Whatever the case, however their life turned out later, we're not looking at the whys. We're only looking at the after effect and the symptoms, right? So even us venturing to go and live outside of the United States, to me, for me, and that's whose approval I look for, that's credible for me. I don't regret my intentions. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm an individual and a mother that got on a plane and went to visit Central America several times. I visited this place. I looked this man up online. Just like another mother who told me, who's educated and whose son still resides in there, they could not find anything on this man on the internet. I went and I researched myself before I and my family went down. So for the people that are sitting behind a computer screen that want to shame or call somebody stupid, there's a difference between stupidity and ignorance. Ignorance either referring to willful ignorance or ignorance referring to you are unaware. So a 16-year-old is not going to be necessarily aware of the patterns of a predator. And so predators usually wait around at the bus station, and a predator who is very savvy can tell that this person doesn't have a protector or a male figure around in her life. She doesn't have any protection. So it's high time we stop shaming people, right? Because I don't consider myself, I might have been victimized at different points, but I'm not carrying on as a victim. And to sit and not have any recourse, to be told by the U.S. Embassy that we don't have a recourse, because this person were not on U.S. soil. So this is not an unintelligent person. As a matter of fact, there are 3 women inside Joseph Robinson's cult, his mates, who are not legally married to him. They have double master's degrees. One ran away before and came back. Her children are in there. Her children, he said out of his own mouth he had to get them pregnant as soon as possible. If I wasn't in there that long, I would not have been privy to that information, which I heard out of his mouth. So I have no reason to exaggerate. So it's not a matter of making people stupid or relegating them to stupid. This information is put out there for people that are unaware, that I would be sitting there saying, why? How could an intelligent person fall for this? So what do I do, as I've been doing since I was younger? I go and I take the time to research so I can see patterns for myself. So even though I didn't fully know this man, I researched him, and from what appeared was a good appearance, I went and visited Central America several times. But there was a lot of information that was kept covert for a reason. So if you were to be inside of that cult, that some people are defending this man because he eats fruits and vegetables and has locks and appears to be a family man. Most people don't know the inner workings of how each and every mate came to be there. They don't know how he has utilized their resources. He's physically blind, but he's very savvy. So most of us have never encountered a master manipulator. We may encounter it on a daily basis systematically, in terms of white supremacy and all that. That's a system. But as a woman, as a black woman, I did not anticipate experiencing that from a man with this kind of hair, with skin that looks like mine, eating raw fruits and vegetables. I did not anticipate it. That does not make me stupid by any means. So I respectfully request that you take the information if it applies to you. If it does not apply to you, there's lots of information for you to research, and there are places where you can be helpful as a woman and as a male, rather than sit behind a screen and use the information for entertainment. It's too long that we are complacent with being entertained. Most of us can't get off of the Soul Train line long enough to think critically. So if you're going to be helpful in this situation, if there's a piece of information that resonates with you, that perhaps you can put someone on to, then please do that and be proactive. I respectfully request that you do that. Our lives are not for entertainment, right? This is a choice for me to share this information. It doesn't feel good to have to acknowledge that there's a person that's scamming and that is so insidious and intricate, all the different people, all the different players, because this man will use anybody. The place we has the pyramid on, from my perspective, and I was inside of there. A lot of the video footage, I was sitting right there, and things are cut and edited. When people saw us on the side of the road, and I was speaking over my sister, who I really care about, right? I brought my family, I encouraged them to come and to leave the United States. Peace. I encourage my family to leave the United States because I'm riding around all the time watching, folks. I'm like, there's another way for us to live. So I took my hard-earned cash and I went to visit it. I wanted to see how are Black people living around the world. I visited Israel. I visited Indiana. I went to see how are we living. Are any of us living together successfully? So we kind of buy into something I don't think we realize, and we relegate us to being stupid. Now, I'm not stupid by any means. I'm a responsible mother. We paid our own way there. This man picks you up from the airport and drops you off at his community. He controls all the transportation. You're busy enjoying nature, not realizing until later that you're cut off. He tells you he collects all the electronical devices and says that we don't want certain things around the children. But later on, after you're there for a while, because you don't know people, particularly if you have not lived with them. I could come on here, and I lived in there, right? So this is easy for people to look at, right? And to throw out there, oh, you're stupid or whatever. But you have the opportunity to grow rather than pace judgment. And I think you should judge people. But you don't need to condemn people. But you should use judgment in terms of an assessment. A lot of folks and con artists and leaders get us caught up in semantics, and they're constantly changing, controlling the context of the words, right? But I invite you, if something resonates with you in common sense, take it, use it to edify and educate yourself. That's going to be more valuable to you than passing judgment on me. If you think that that's stupid, that's your entitlement. If you think that that can never happen to you or never happen to one of your family members, good for you. You're doing a great job. But I'm here to tell you, there are highly intelligent women. Highly. Not only are they intelligent, here's a distinction, they're very feeling. There are women that are empathic, that have a lot of feeling for our community, that are willing to take their resources and invest in their community. That's most likely what's saving us as a community. For those people that are willing to put up their resources. But what taints the whole thing is the absolute control and dictatorship of this man. Of this man's ability to manipulate people's insecurities and to fearmonger. We could not have never anticipated someone telling us about Willie Lynch, only later like, this seems like the pattern is like another version of a Willie Lynch. Who wants to acknowledge that? So we did acknowledge it. And acknowledging it, that's what allowed us to get up and walk out after all that we had invested. There's a lot you cannot see on the internet, and we have a habit of putting people up on a pedestal, even if it's an elder. They may do great works. We have many great leaders. I don't know if you all are familiar with James Bevel. Look up on YouTube, James Bevel, Response to James Bevel, Part 1 and Part 2. This was one of the right-hand assistants of Martin Luther King, who was very, as I understand, he's before my generation, responsible for doing a lot of civil rights work with voting. But he was molesting all of his daughters, and he even wrote, his philosophy out about it. So imagine, folks can pass judgment, but imagine the daughters that was perpetrated upon. They loved their father. But this man believed that he needed to break his daughters in. You cannot vouch, or perhaps stop vouching for these people's character who you have not lived with. So I'll be real, not bitter, affected in terms of it has removed and ripped away any kind of romanticism I could have about repatriating or community building. It has actually made me much more just refined my sight and my critical thinking skills. And if I'm speaking to someone that doesn't have the experience, I do understand, I comprehend that people are behind the screen that are making statements when they don't have an insight. And that can be, leaves us at a disadvantage as a people, because that in and of itself, folks can't relate because they don't have the experience. So they don't understand sometimes what you're talking about. It's not the easiest thing to explain. So when we were on the side of the road, I made a decision. Yes, I was speaking over my sister, but I made a decision. We had no recourse to get up, take the money I had, get a car to drive me across Belize with a little Wi-Fi tethering device to stand on the side of the road outside of this space of this cult in front of their pyramid, knowing that all of their men and their people were inside. They came outside and jumped me. Whatever. But my adrenaline was rushing. I knew we had limited time. I still had the cult clothes on. My sister decided not to put the clothes on. She has her own process. I decided to do that. I took a risk so that other people would know. So perhaps we can take the time to appreciate someone sharing the information. If it doesn't resonate with you, I invite you to move on to some information that could help you, that could be more beneficial to you in your thinking and reasoning process. But do understand, we had a family member that was still in there. You cannot see a lot from these videos. And yes, it is very emotional, and I make no apologies for that. This is not the time anymore for folks to be apologetic, whether you're male or female. If you were molested, speak up. I'm very clear though. When you speak up, quite often you are going to be alone and you're speaking up. You're going to be alone. Me being aware of molestation in my family, I have no reason. There's no reason. I'm not one to say go out and take people and lynch them. That doesn't make any sense, because anyone that's doing something is for a reason. However, there must be some kind of accountability. Unfortunately, when I exhausted everything to even go to some community leaders or elders, whatever you want to call them, that may have been this man's peers. Joseph Robinson is in his 70s. He's a blind man in his 70s. So I exhausted everything I could to see if he could be held accountable within our community. So for those people that say, oh, we want to go to the white man, we want to go to the white man, right? Harsh reality, wake up call. There's no one coming to save black women. If you look at the statistics of black women that are from AIDS, from poor decisions and from trusting folks who have not been vetted or qualified, if you look at the amount of molestation, there's no one fending for us in the court system. There's no one that has the common sense to stop exploiting us on these videos. Many black women also are participating in this behavior, and everything is entertainment. I'm not better than anyone because my hair doesn't have chemicals in it at this point. Many years ago it did. It doesn't make me better. However, my only purpose here is to share information so that if somebody should decide to do the research, do their research before going to any of these communities, that they can properly vet. And I will also say this, excuse me, for these folks that are thinking of going to the tropics, this I can tell you. I lived closer to the bush when I lived out in that cult. I don't hear anybody talking about, here's what we experienced, right? And this is the part of reality of the bush, right? Which people are so amazed by. There are snakes. We could have been killed by a yellow jaw, which is a poisonous snake. So red coils and yellow jaws. It was like a hazing process. But this is a reality for people that want to escape to the tropics, whether they want to go on vacation or they're thinking of transitioning. It's a trade-off. We experienced a yellow jaw, which his family, no one took it seriously. No one came to check on our safety, knowing how deadly it was. We experienced, what do you call it? Looked like clouds of termites and the larvae in our ears and all over our hair and everywhere, like locusts. We experienced angellas that look like an afro that start to cover the whole wall that are flesh-eating ants. When they would come through, you'd have to clear out. We experienced cockroaches that are this side. But we were determined to live another lifestyle. What else did we experience? Okay, frogs, not a problem. Tarantulas, the size of your foot. those are some of the realities of being in nature. Rainstorms and stuff like us. Where we're coming from the city, as someone that was not a country girl, these things to us have us like, wow, ooh, ah, because it's different from hearing sirens and from constantly hearing, um, on the news constantly somebody being killed. It affects you after a while. So if you compare the two, everybody thinks, I'm getting the heck out of here. I'm getting out of so called Babylon. There's Babylon everywhere on the planet. I was growing food inside of flower pots on a fire escape and in my house. I joined a community garden. I encourage my son to do so. In the states where we have lots of resources, you're not going to find those resources in Central America. You're not going to find those resources. The job economy is not the same in Central America if you haven't charted out another source of income. So you have to do your research. So no, I'm not, by no means stupid. And I'm very committed to my son, knowing that he's going to be someone's father. Do I control that? No. But I'm very responsible and have put everything into rearing my son a certain kind of way, to raise him honorably, to not disrespect women, to watch what he puts into his body, to watch his spending habits, to not be materialistic, to not raise him with a mystery God in the church. That I did. So for someone, this cult leader, to tell me that my son's name meant Satan, and to basically wipe everyone's identity away with their name, I'm very clear. When I decided, have you ever heard of I'm very well of carbonation. I don't want to get too pulled into that, but bro, I'm very well aware of them. I've seen them here in Central America. So there's a lot I could say that you folks don't see on the internet. I'm very well aware. There are only so many hours in the day, but I'm aware. I'm more aware than you realize. I've spoken to a member of that particular cult that's there right now. Yeah, I've spoken to one of them long time when I first left Joseph Robinson's cult. So there are many women on their own that are seeking to live another way of life. That's just simple, plain, and wholesome. There's nothing wrong with that, and they don't need to be shamed because of it. From my observation as an adult, I think many of the young people that are over there in 20s, is in 30s, is in 40s, and is in 50s. Yes, there are some exceptions of chronologically older adults that are maybe stunted at various levels in terms of their maturity. But the 20s and early teens is not the same as the 50s in terms of their life experience, because wisdom is hard earned from life experience. Quite often, a lot of these young people are regurgitating things that they've heard. And a lot of the information that they're oohing and ah about, natural here, this stuff is like old. This is like a resurgence of black hippiedom. This stuff is not new, but it's new to them. And we are seeing the results. We are seeing the results of many young people that have been left vulnerable because there are not a lot of credible adults in their midst. And also, we all know by the time we reach our 20s, we're looking at the perceived contradictions of our parents. This is also what leaves young people very open and vulnerable to cults, because they don't have people that they can really go to that are credible for advice. Because a lot of the adults are too busy being immature, and everything is about entertainment. And so you can't even come to people to have a certain conversation about sexual health, about spending habits, about just hygiene, about choices and who you're going to get with and marry. So what are the only two options? Are religion. And a lot of young people aren't feeling religion. So they think that they're choosing something different. I thought when I was younger, Islam was going to be very different from Christianity. So I'm saying all this to say that shaming is not helping us. It's not necessarily, it doesn't require any critical thinking to shame someone. We are putting the information out there so folks can be aware, particularly young adults, hopefully some older women and mature women and fathers will share this information with young people. Sounds like the boy has a cult after. Yes, there's so much I could tell you. But if people, I was somebody that invested in his books, I don't recommend that you get into all of his books because it's a lot of indoctrination and programming. But I read all of this man's books. So the principle of of eating fresh fruits and vegetables, right? Whether you want to call it raw, or whatever, cruelty-free fresh fruits and vegetables. Not a problem. That would benefit all of us as a people, and it's less expensive than buying products, right? Living amongst each other, acquiring some land, um, creating an environment where there can be healthy mate choices for our next generation. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't even have a problem if this man had multiple mates, if they were being treated properly. But again, had I not been in there, there's no way that I would have been able to see the patterns and peep the patterns. The patterns is a shortcut. I invite people, look at the playlist. Look at Father Yod, which looks like a white version of Kwatamani, Joseph Robinson. Look at Holy Hell. Look at Hell's Gate. Research the couple of black community cults that are in our own community. Because we want to be so romantic, we refuse to look at the human side of the poor decision making and the deviant behavior that was within our own community, because we want so desperately to put something up on a pedestal. But I'm here to tell you that romanticism has been pulled away, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it because it makes me a sharper, more critical thinker, which is very necessary as a mother. Because as mothers, we need to have the foresight to not let the predators in the door and to set a higher standard for who we choose to have children with. Right? If we are more informed than everybody, male and female, can get the insight to keep your legs closed, keep your genitals to yourself. All this of sex is a natural part of life, but it's being used to control people. This man, Joseph Robinson, even controls the sex that goes around in his cult. It's one thing to set healthy boundaries and to educate our own children on values, but it's another thing, it's the control that we could not have anticipated. And also in terms of cross-referencing, he's able to cross-reference you. For example, we all came in and we all took AIDS tests before we went in there. See, this man is old and savvy. He's seen Move, what happened to Move. He's seen what happened to Dr. York, who he makes mention of in some of his books and tapes. See, people are not, it's like people read the Bible, but they don't study the Bible, and we don't think of it critically. This man is older and he's savvy. So most of us are not really familiar with the patterns of a master manipulator. Because if you can see the patterns, you'll start to see the patterns everywhere. Whether it's your church, your synagogue, your Islam. And some people are not prepared for, well, if I see the scamming that's all around, what do I do? And I'm here again, and I would say mostly for young people and for mothers. For those fathers too, but I'm speaking as a mother. That I recommend people, very simply, be responsible and be respectful. Not only to other people, but respect yourself. So I had enough self-respect to tell this man, listen, excuse me, so-called back then high priest. I would never call him high priest ever again. His name is Joseph Robinson. He is a man. If anything, he will be the high priest of deception. That my life is very important. I had a godparent, my godfather. He used to say to me, if I looked up, he said, stop looking up at the sky. Nobody's coming to save you. There's no mystery God. Your life is just as important as Jesus Christ's life. He said, you are a living book. Those bits that these elders put in my head, my godfather, my grandmother, gave me a sense of self and allowed me to walk out of there. Many people don't have that in their life. I didn't grow up as privileged or anything. I grew up as hardworking and as a person that questions the whys. My questioning is what allowed me to face so-called embarrassment, not fitting into the sisterhood and wanting to belong to the sisterhood, and just wanting these families. If I could just sit through the hazing a little longer, it's like dangling like a carrot, dangling community and belonging in front of your face. At some point, it wasn't worth it. I don't want to fit in that bad where your character stinks. We can say all the fancy word and the rhetoric. Your character stinks how I see you speak to your mate. So what we experience is not up for debate. And I'm here to share, I could come off and explode and be very action. That's not going to do anything. I comprehend that many people are not going to understand or comprehend what we went through in there. Many people find this as entertainment, and when they turn it off, they're going to go back to their life as usual. I do not regret my intentions for going forth. I don't regret my intentions for wanting to invest money, thousands of dollars on my own in my community. My sister used to ask me, why do I invest so much? We don't say anything to, no offense, to Jewish communities for investing in all the hospitals that are in Brooklyn. If you go into the Jewish community right now, they constantly take their money and put their money back into their community. I used to watch them get a bus and go way across town to invest in their own community and shop with their own. So I, as a mother, I'm not really one for sitting all day in a lecture or rhetoric. So I put my money where my mouth is. As one individual, I was willing to invest. But where it stopped was the character. And right now, where we're being, there's an opportunity for us to see right now with all the stuff that's coming to the surface with Africa Bambaataa, Dr. York, Yahweh Ben Yahweh, Kwatamani, Brother Polite, don't know him personally. Some of these people, in terms of their intellect, is absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. But are we going to continue to allow sneakers and cars and money, is that going to, are we going to constantly, as women and mothers, are we going to continually overlook morals and character for what somebody can do for us? Should I overlook morals and character so that I can live in the sunshine? Now I'm in the sunshine, I'm in the tropics. But you can be living in paradise and be living in hell. Whether it looks like, the finery of fancy buildings or whether it's under coconut trees. You can be living in paradise, but living in hell in terms of the control. Yeah, someone made a comment that we could have been going off to Belize and living on our own. Yes, we could, and that was our intention as we were exiting out. So it's one thing to say it; it's another thing to be in the process. A lot of times we don't respect the process. A lot of our young people watching us don't respect the process. We say we want businesses. We say, we want to lose weight, but we don't respect the process of it, what it takes for saving, what it takes to be healthy, and able to even have the mental focus and to be healthy enough to achieve these things. There were some things that we've learned a lot. I don't think I would have learned this in New York City, but I did learn other lessons in New York City. I already wasn't going to the movies. I'm trained professionally as a chef. I'm trained as a professional trainer. I did not need this man to help me take the perm out of my hair to get me to eat living foods. I was doing that already as a mother. I was being very resourceful and responsible with my son so he did not go into debt and help him create his education. So I'm by no means an unintelligent woman. Lack of confidence is also what makes us very vulnerable to these cult leaders when they can get you to second guess yourself and whatever the so-called perceived contradictions of your family to get you to disassociate from your family. My grandma Lou was not a vegan or a vegetarian, but when I tell you she is my number one inspiration in terms of how to treat people. She's my inspiration to eat fruits and vegetables. She's my inspiration to eat my own food. Those simple principles are what continuously save me and guide and direct the way that I move, right? I have members of my family that might be very overweight, but when I tell you they're very loving and they're very giving. So I have learned to take the best of the gems that were given to me and to leave the rest. But another flag of this man's character, a signal of this man's character, is to get you to turn away from, similar to this other younger version, to turn away from your family. So I don't sit in condemnation. I honor the family members for what they have given me. I honor them, whether they're 300 or 400 pounds. I take the best and leave the rest. My responsibility is to take what they've given to me and multiply it. I take it and I multiply it. That's simple. My grandmother could go anywhere with $5 and feed everyone with $5. I can do the same thing with no cookbooks. There's simple principles that I experienced before this man. That's what allowed me to get up and to walk out. So the videos that we have shared is for information for folks to not, at least you have a trail that you can see some kind of a patterns. What we experience is not up for debate. We're not asking for permission. We're not asking for donations. We're not asking for acceptance. We're merely sharing. I am a mother first. I am a woman. I'm a human being. I'm not apologizing for any of my emotions. I am clear. I'm crystal clear. And clarity has been hard earned through life experience. And hopefully, folks will take the time to research. There's a whole playlist of information on cults. For example, I've heard maybe Jim Jones, but I didn't really know who he was. That's not my generation. When I watched some of the research on Jim Jones, my mouth was on the floor. The patterns when I researched the cults were 110% on. 110%. No one wants to study their pastor. No one wants to study their imam. People want to overlook and be so ood and odd about the information, but they're not looking at the character. And are these people qualified to be an example? There might not be anything with the information, but information can be, and the context can be changed all the time. You can be played upon. So I invite people to do their research and take the time, if you can, with your young people, take the time to go over the information on cults, because the patterns were jaw-dropping. I didn't know Jim Jones used basketball to lure people in. And cults will use children. They will use women. They will use all kinds of things for people that want to connect. That's the most human thing. It's natural. We'll use that to divide up families. See, it's a slow, insidious process. It's a slow hazing. And we were out there and we were isolated. So it's a life experience that we're sharing that you can benefit from if you so choose. But what will not happen is we will not take on the shame or the reverse projection, which is another technique that cult leaders do. A lot of time they'll project and try to give you a problem that you don't necessarily have. So there's so much that I can't tell you in a short video, but I invite you to take your time and do your research. And more so than anything, I invite you to put your romanticism. I invite you to take your romanticism and put it to the side and see things for who they are. I could have never anticipated women and mothers with children basically turning a blind eye to the hazing that we went through. But I also comprehend that they're in deep. Their resources are gone. They have children. There's unprotected sex going on there. Again, Joseph Robinson controls the context. Their parents don't even know what to do. So I have compassion for the parents that are in there. That was excruciating. As a mother, as feminine, I'm the most peaceful, fruit and vegetable eating person you ever want to meet. I don't bother anybody. As a matter of fact, I'm very passionate about sharing food and nutrition and dance with my community. That's my lifestyle. But when you mess with the children, it is the most feminine thing to do to inflict a consequence. Now, does that mean all physical violence? No. But it's not limited to anything in nature is going to protect itself and its children. So you're made constantly to believe that you are not feminine if you're not, this man said to me, Joseph Robinson, I should be trying to woo him. I'm not 18 and I'm not 20. And you couldn't pay me to go back those many years because wisdom has been hard earned. So again, this information is shared for the purpose of educating people to see patterns, particularly women and mothers and young adults. The other thing I have found that many people, male and female, are covering for folks, they're covering for the romanticism. There's a refusal to acknowledge the abuse that is happening in our community. There's a refusal. There is an outright refusal. Because it's my uncle. That was my father. That's our daddy. That's our preacher. There's a refusal to acknowledge the scamming and the abuse that's going on. That's my baba. These are human beings that are flawed. And at this point, we don't have the luxury to give a pass to anyone. So invite folks to be aware and to develop healthy boundaries when it comes to people. When it comes to building community, healthy boundaries. Being very clear on what we're exposed to children to. When we come together in a contract, to write things down. People forget. People forget agreements. They forget what was said. They may have different frames of reference and have different realms of understanding to commit contracts to paper. This man, he had us write a contract and did a switch and bait on the contract. He's manipulating every single woman that's in there, and they all are there for different reasons. We watch women and they're having breakdowns. Again, this stuff is hidden from your sight because you see the pretty image of the red, gold, and green and the locks, and they're eating fruits and vegetables. It looks like a utopia. He makes sure that you can't see the things, and he makes sure that you can't question him. So we're so caught up in our emotions as a people, and we're so caught up in our emotions and entertainment. We're so caught up in our emotions that we're not thinking critically because our heart bleeds when we think of children. Our heart bleeds, for our men. So a lot of times you won't ask someone to get tested for STDs and get tested again. You won't vet people because your heart bleeds. Oh, well, maybe. That's how we get hurt, how we get killed, and how we invite predators into the home. There has to be a litmus test for who we allow into our bodies, our homes, around our children. This goes for men too. It would behoove you, it would benefit folks to create a litmus test and do without. If it doesn't qualify, if you haven't vetted it, if you haven't read the ingredients, it would be to your benefit to vet everyone and everything. Often we are uncomfortable or we feel embarrassed if you don't want to hug everybody, if your children don't want to hug everybody. We make them feel obligated. So in making them turn off their critical thinking, if there's something that they're sensing that they don't feel comfortable. So I'm speaking this with a lot of passion. I did, I feel a way when I hear people sitting around behind their computer screen saying that these people are stupid. And yes, there's nothing wrong with relocating. Yes, he was in the military. Out of his own mouth, he was a behavioral modification specialist. This is what I'm saying. Most people are not privy to this stuff. This man, when I tell you, is a master manipulator. So me going and mouthing off, that's not strategic. That's not going to work with this kind of individual. And many of us are not educated on something that is common today, which is narcissism. I didn't know what narcissism was. I looked it up. I didn't know what gaslighting was. I had researched it. Please do your research. Please, there are specific techniques. It is not hard to program people. We are programmed every single day. And quite frankly, we are loving it because then we don't have to think and we don't have to be responsible. There's no one coming to save us. Anywhere you go on the planet, there are laws and you're going to have to work. You're going to have to do something for your food. Also, protection is a reality. Security is a reality. Protecting yourself from snakes, is a reality. Many people say they want to grow their own food. Okay, while you're sporting a hairstyle, you have long nails. That's not usually going to work when you have a hoe in your hands and you're looking to garden. Or, when the seasons change and you don't, there's no water. You have to think of water catchment systems. So quite often we're eased into a complacency living in the city. And there's nothing wrong. Wherever you are on the planet, make the best. You can live a good quality of life from wherever you are. I did it in the city. I'm going to live my best life wherever I am because that's who I am. He couldn't take that away from me. He could not take that away from me. Things I was already on a path before I met him, and there are things I'm going to continue to do. I'm not going to stuff a steak in my mouth because I left this community. Sounds like he uses the Monarch program. I don't know what the Monarch program is, but programming, I could tell you what the patterns are. And as a mother, I found for me the shortcut is I can sit, and sometimes young people don't like it. They think that you're being a party pooper or you're being corny because you have life experience. You're like, this person, do they do this, this, and that? I don't approve of it because you've been around long enough. I don't know everything. I'm smart enough to know and intelligent enough to know I don't know everything, but I can see patterns. By this point, I can see patterns. Some people have not been exposed to anything. So it's not hard to program people. And we think that it's only the system or it's only folks with a pale face. No, you have to vet people based on their behavior. And you have not lived with people. You haven't gone through anything with them. This could even apply within your personal relationships or your business contracts. Quite often as the people, we're going on emotions and feelings and not on logic. It's mind control. So we might think we're above it. Quite often the people that think they're so savvy that can't be in control, they're probably being controlled on one level or another right now. It's different levels. There are different levels to it. But on a basic level, it boils down to simply, or I found, responsibility, and respect. I'm not obligated at this point to be polite to a predator. So for the sister that outed some folks she found questionable around her children, good for her. She said, it's not up for discussion. You're questionable, not around my children. Trust has to be earned. I said that to this man. So these are things that became a problem. The more I spoke of and I had questions, the more it increasingly became a problem. When I would ask a question, how do you all resolve conflict? These are questions that I put to Joseph Robinson. And also at some point, we were told we could not speak directly to him, right? We had to speak to his assistant, his Oshami or his feminine speaking voice. Then I guess she couldn't take the clear questions that I was asking her, which every time I would ask a question, it would be put off for a week to 2 weeks. Oh, I'll relay that to the high priest. And then wouldn't get back to us for a week or 2 weeks. This was drawn out. These are things that you can't see on the internet. Then he sent his queen mother, which is his first wife or the main head honcho, the short African woman. Basically, she's been with him the longest since she was a young girl, right? So she knows his ways. The women I know his ways the most, right? So he sends, just like any pimp would send, sorry, it just is what it is, would send his woman to groom the rest of the girls because she knows exactly what he wants. And it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. And I have to say this. Every time I see one of these videos with this younger version, and he's not the only one. He may be more trending. He's not the only one. He's not. There are numerous that fly underneath the radar here in Central America. Every time we watch one of these videos, and my sister would ask me, why do you watch? I said, I watch for education. The patterns are so on point. On the surface, there may be different nuances. But one is older. He's more savvy. You know, he's laid back in the cut so you can't see him. And he's eating raw fruits and vegetables. But when I tell you the control of the language, of the sex, of of what the idea of what a woman should be in it, it's so, we're like, this is the same thing as Joseph Robinson every single time. In addition, when we watched all the research on cults, the patterns are 100% on, if not 110%. So please watch, look at the different scenarios so you can see the patterns. Because these are patterns that can be applied to life. So you're not walking around romanticizing. So, hopefully this is helpful for folks. I feel very strongly. I feel very passionate. Another thing that women are made to feel stupid for or trying to shame us for, that we can't make decisions because we're too emotional. Emotions have a purpose. There's a time to be logical and a time to be emotion. We have these feelings and these sensibilities for a reason, their internal compass, but they are often manipulated because we may not realize the savviness of predators. And predators come in all different types of forms. And predators also appear in the form that is most likable to you. So there are predators with locks and with muscles and skinny. There are vegan ones. There are raw foodist ones. There are Pentecostal ones. There are Muslim ones. There are, Trumpy ones. They come in all flavors, colors, and sizes. So it's only for us to be responsible and to think for ourselves. That may seem like it's more challenging, but at least you don't have to live on your knees. You don't have to live or die on your knees. And if we can come to a point of acceptance when you speak up, all you're required to do, and this is just my recommendation, observation, you're only required to be respectable, not polite. Because being polite can get you killed when you're afraid to speak up. That could be you sitting in an elevator and somebody gets in the elevator and you feel uncomfortable. Not speaking up can get you hurt. If you don't speak up, and also the timing of when you're feeling something, to ignore your feelings. And quite often we're encouraged to not speak up and to be ladylike. I'm very much a woman and very, very feminine and very clear on it. But as a woman, the reality is that quite often we are in situations, all women, not just black women, but I'm speaking as a black woman, that we're in positions where you go around the world because of all the videos that people think we're a hip hop video, or people think that you smoke weed, that you're a pothead, if you wear a lock. So there are all these different images that people are assuming that is who we are. So we have to speak up and sometimes educate people when necessary, if we feel warranted. Oh no, this is who I am. No, I don't do that, because a precedent has been set out For example, again, this Joseph Robinson said we are some of the, what did he call us? He said something about African American women with some of the nastiest, whatever women. We could say it about women, we could say that about men, but it's his motivation was control. Because the women that are around him are some of the most dedicated women to him in terms of women and children, that would pretty much even die. I would dare say would die for him. But it's also bigger than them. It's because of what he represents. But there's also this romanticism and turning a blind eye to what he does because they're trying to hold on to a dream. And the reality is there's some human beings out there that are very flawed, that are narcissistic. And the key distinction, narcissists do not have a conscience. So when you're getting upset and angry, please understand this is a huge distinction. You're going crazy with all these feelings and emotions. They don't have a conscience. So how do you come at somebody or deal with someone? They don't have a conscience. Whatever they're doing to you, they feel like they're doing you a favor. Narcissists don't have remorse, don't have a conscience. That's a huge distinction. That's something many of us would never distinguish or perhaps can't even fathom or imagine. You're dealing with someone that doesn't, he may not be stabbing you or something like that, but he does not have a conscience. So again, I'm just sharing patterns, and it may not seem like it's in any particular order as it comes to me. You're welcome. I'm sharing. I'm just sharing because I realize many people are not going to understand, because I can't take the whole experience of almost 2 years in there and another family member that was in there for 3 years. I have to think like, wow, I give my family member credit. They were isolated with no one to bounce anything off of. Many people won't even make it out of there. They're very traumatized. This man would have you tell you that you don't have the capacity to think for yourself. Many people don't know what they would do if they left, but they're actually intelligent enough to leave. Or maybe don't want to take the risk, and think on their own what they would be up against on their own. But to me, I was like, I didn't come this far from the States to live or to die on my knees. And at the end of the day, people that are looking at these videos, there's been no one that even older adults, generations over us, no one even asked for an investigation. As a community, when people want to talk about a community when there's a problem, no investigation on both sides, no fairness, no investigation. Everybody's going by videos. What we experience is not up for debate. I am by no means stupid. I don't have any regrets for my intention for going forth to live. I wasn't going to look to live on a vacation. We worked when we were there and we invested our money. There's some people that didn't. And more as we sat quietly with no recourse. Yes, different things were revealed. Different people, little teeny drips and drabs of people came forth that don't want to be, don't necessarily want their names put out there. But this man is not honorable for what he does to young people, because the mothers that have trying to secure a space for their young people had no idea of what their children were up against, and they had no say in the matter because he alienated them from their children. And not until he knows he has complete control are you allowed to speak to anybody from the outside world. So please continue to speak about narcissistic personality that our people start to understand these people. Yes, it's important that we understand. You can't change something that you don't understand. And this is my humble observation, we are underestimating the, I don't know if I want to use the word power, the impact that making simple changes in our lifestyle can have in terms of restoring integrity, peace of mind. People are looking all over for peace. I've been to ashrams. I've traveled for some years working with the airline. I wasn't rich, but I've had some rich experiences just for me being strategic and having an open eye. So it gave me some kind of foresight to come back and share with my family and my community. It doesn't make them any less because they didn't. Other people haven't experienced that. Everybody brings something to the table. But I'm sharing this so that folks can see the patterns, not only for cults. Cults is not just in Central America. There are cults in Africa. There are cults within our own community. There's mistreatment within our own community. So I'm definitely going to say, as women, I love black men. I really do. I love human beings, actually. I enjoy my culture. I enjoy my food. I don't diet. I enjoy fruits and vegetables. It's not a diet to me. I enjoy my culture. But we have dysfunction within our community that we are not addressing. So sitting up in lectures is not going to do it. At some point, we're going to go through withdrawal in terms of choosing differently. We're going to go through withdrawal, and folks are going to be upset when we change our habits. When you don't want to drink and smoke anymore. When you want to save and do something different. It's like these are things the information from the Bible. This is not new information. This is simple stuff. So I know this may seem overly simple. And this is just my humble observation and experience. We are underestimating the impact of eating fruits and vegetables. We're underestimating the power of growing some fruits and vegetables, even in a little pot on a fire escape, which don't quote me on. I don't want anybody to get any legal laws for growing on and get any fines for growing on a fire escape, even though that's what I did. But growing sprouts and more so than vegan, even though it's vegan, eating cruelty-free. We're underestimating the impact of wearing natural hair when it's a bazillion-dollar industry. We're underestimating the impact of simple life changes. We're underestimating the impact of making sure that us and our partners get tested. We're underestimating the impact of, no, it's uncomfortable. Look up people's criminal record. We're underestimating the impact of being creative around finding ways to, I don't know if it's counseling or therapy or talking about and having vulnerable conversations around trauma so that we can let it go and put it into perspective. As a young person, I was a person that questioned, said there's certain ways that we don't have to live, and I found the library. Now you get this cat telling you not to read books. And there's only but so much books you have to read, because at some point you got to put the book down and actually apply. But we are underestimating the impact of the simple choices that we make for what we won't participate in. It's like working in the fitness industry and the nutrition industry. Quite often people will come and ask for programs and meal plans. It's New Year's Eve. Ask for all this stuff, and folks are spending all this money on supplements. We spend money on all this stuff, and we never focus on what to leave out. We're spending so much money buying more stuff, and we never think about what to stop doing. And this is what predators take advantage of. They take advantage of our unwillingness to do the obvious. And if you won't do it, if you don't have a plan and a standard, they're going to set one for you. So hopefully this is helpful. Again, I just wanted to share that the experience with sharing is, I'm not here for entertainment. I'm not here. My life is not someone's entertainment. It was extreme. It was traumatizing. I could not believe that this man with locks with raw fruits and vegetables, some of the things he would say every now and then after we had been in there for a couple of years, would say stuff. He would say, like, you should be trying to woo me. I was looking at myself like, did you hear what he just said? It sounded crazy. Or start telling these stories. It sounded like a straight pimp story. So I'm real simple. I said, you sound like a pimp. All the women were quiet. Nobody questions him. It's like the emperor has no clothes on. The grown adults would not question him. But after you sit around and you see the patterns, there's a reason why people are not questioning him. Just like I knew it was a matter of time. Much appreciation. I knew it was a matter of time. I could sense. I said, there's a reason why people in here are not speaking up. There's a reason why. And as we see all of this information about this other cult is being revealed, now you can see the whys. Now you can see the whys. As a mother, my humble observation, I think a lot of people, it's so many issues we're just not dealing with as a community. There's a lot of young people, I think, that feel very ashamed because they have STDs. They don't know how to care for it. The doctor may give them some pills or whatever. So because of their shame, simple thing like that makes them vulnerable to a Joseph Robinson who, or somebody that's promising them healing. A simple thing like that. Because these conversations are not being had. Because we don't have conversations around protecting ourselves from STDs and about our sexual health. Because we're immature, we don't understand that in getting off sexually, we're not, a young person is not thinking that these people that they're relating with sexually have a whole package of trauma that they come with. And they're younger. It's like a 6-year-old, 17-year-old. They don't have a language. They don't have a language to articulate this stuff at that age. They don't have that maturity. They don't have that wisdom. That wisdom is earned throughout the years. So that there's not a lot of mature people they speak to. Most adults just recommend them to go to a community center or some free program, when a lot of information and conversations ideally should be coming from within our own community from mature adults. So this is where these cult leaders come in as father figures. He's going to tell us about our bodies, because we haven't taken the time to learn about our bodies and breastfeeding and all the things that we do naturally. Then he becomes the professional, because as far as Joseph Robinson is concerned, he's the one that controls all the delivering of the babies, and he's going to tell you about your body. So hopefully this can give you some, it's so much that I couldn't tell you in a few minutes about how this man is running game. And when we look at this, the red, the gold, and the green stirs up emotion. We see locks, it stirs up emotion. You want to see healthy black families. You want to see you. That's the most natural thing in the world. You want to invest your resources in a community. It doesn't take away from other people. It's how we want to live. It is totally being exploited and manipulated. So it doesn't mean we can't do that? No. But I would say, in terms of a practical solution, everyone needs to be vetted. Who you are in a relationship with, dating, who you have around your children, male or female, we have to vet each other. And in the vetting process, if there's not a standard, we need to keep a healthy distance. When I say a healthy distance, everybody keep their genitals to themselves. Get yourself together in terms of your physical health, your eating. It's not hard. It's not expensive. It's not. Legumes and beans and peas, not expensive. Onions are not expensive. Garlic is not expensive. What's expensive is being sick. Insulin is expensive. Surgeries is expensive. Being out of work is expensive. Constantly going to the beauty supply stores is expensive. So those things were no-brainers for me to invest those funds into our community, which I've been doing for years. So hopefully this information is helpful to folks. Again, what we experience is not up for debate. I'm not here to argue with folks. I'm sharing my experience. If it's helpful to you, take it. What doesn't resonate with you, go somewhere else to find something that it does resonate with you. But I invite people to take a look at shaming people or calling people stupid. If you think that calling people stupid is going to be helpful, if your goal is to get people to think critically, then what's the best language? To be clear to do that. Maybe there's a time to use those words. But I can tell you, I'm an intelligent woman and mother that put my money and my savings where my mouth is. I don't regret that. But also, I'm not going to sit here and not speak up because someone is a so-called elder of a certain amount of years. Because I'm very respectful to my elders. You know what I'm saying? I get their importance and their relevance. But by no means am I going to sit around and say nothing while young women continue to be exploited. I don't think the mother that's in it had any idea if his youngest mate that's from Belize has any idea of what her daughter was going to get into. And she's isolated. And he's manipulated the other young men that's in there. It is what it is. So hopefully this is helpful. And that's it. Create a great day. And keep your thinking cap on and put the romanticism to the side. It's getting us in a lot of trouble. The entertainment, wanting to constantly be entertained and romanticized. Because at some point in romanticism, at some point we have to put the books down and turn off the YouTube videos. And there's stuff to be done. There's money to be saved. We have to come up with ways to develop economic systems, ways to grow our own food, even if you're in a city. It can be done. It really can be done. And there's so much we can take the technology and use it to our advantage to communicate with each other. We don't have to use world star hip hop. I can use this to get the word out. Many people say, well, you're telling the white man, or you should. What's my recourse as a mother? My responsibility if I see something to say something. Many people are too embarrassed. I'm not going to be embarrassed. With that, create a great day.